Welcome to the MVP podcast, where we talk about anything NBA. I'm Sam Holcroft, alongside Geigh and Payton Thompson. Before we begin, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Momentum MVP. Check us out on Facebook at MVP Momentum Podcast. Check us out on YouTube at MVP Momentum Podcast. So, guys, a couple days ago, Damian Lillard finally got traded, but it wasn't to the Miami Heat like everyone was kind of expecting. It was the Milwaukee Bucks, and honestly, who saw this coming? Like, did we rule out the Bucks for trying to trade for him, or did we think that it was going to be the Heat?
I don't know. You tell me. What do you think? I didn't think it was gonna be Heat. Every time you hear like what the media is saying, it's not the truth. It's always something random.
Yeah, that's
But
true. Yeah, I don't think we ruled out the Bucks, but yeah, we definitely didn't see the Bucks being, that mystery team, I guess, but the Bucks were that kind of mystery team, with, the other teams that were in play. I think, we kind of knew that obviously the Heat were, at least first or second, in the running for him. But then the Raptors news came out, I think, like a week ago, and executives thought they were the front runners. So I'm not really sure exactly what broke down there. I think it probably started and ended with Scotty Barnes there, but yeah, I think as far as the fit goes, I think it's a really good fit. We'll kind of get into that a little bit deeper, but yeah, I'm not sure. I know Joe Cronin was gonna, obviously he's come out and he said there wasn't any coming back from the trade request, and I think that he wanted to trade Dame, and I thought maybe he didn't want to trade him to the Heat because he didn't want to give Dame exactly what he wanted. But with that being said, he ended up going to the Bucks.
Yeah. So let me just recap the trade. Milwaukee received, I believe it was just Damian Lillard. Portland receives Jrue Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, Toumani Camara, Milwaukee's 2029 unprotected first-round pick, and an unprotected Milwaukee swap rights in 2028 and 2030. And the Suns received Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson. So the Suns also throwing their name in this and basically getting Grayson Allen and just swapping Nurkic and Ayton. So I want to talk about the Suns real fast. So we've kind of talked a couple times about the Suns and why they matched Ayton last summer. Like I wasn't a fan of that. Just let him walk to the Pacers. It was a toxic relationship, and now they trade him away for Nurkic. So upgrade, or do you think that that's going to help their team with Beal, Booker, and KD?
I mean, it's
yeah,
not. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's an upgrade, but it's a better fit overall. I think Ayton is the better player when you kind of compare one on one, but or I should say one to one. But Nurkic is just a better fit with the kind of talent that they have on the team now. They don't need more scoring. I mean, I would be. I'm going to be looking as far as defensively, kind of the drop off there because I do think Aiton is a slightly underrated defender when he wants to play well, and we'll see if Nurkic can also stay healthy. But at the same time, you kind of get off that long term contract. Obviously, Nurkic still has that bigger contract, but it's on lesser time, so you can get off it a little bit quicker.
yeah. I think it's more of a depth move, and I think the Suns were worried that their starting five would have been the only thing that can actually win them games, and now you have that kind of new hybrid that the NBA is kind of moving towards too. That yeah, it's nice to have 3-point shooters, but it's also nice to have some shooters who can also drive as well. That can get the defense unstable. Um, so like I think it's the Suns are receiving kind of those hybrid players that really make a championship team. Um, the Portland Trailblazers they're not done. In no way. Uh, like if it like the thing is like they're not done because they're gonna trade away Jrue Holiday, right? They have to. If it didn't work with Dame, why is it gonna work with Jrue? Drew's gone.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I do feel kind of sad for this Bucks team is like there was no way that you could have got Dame without giving up Jrue. You just had to. I don't think that there was a way that you could keep Chris Middleton, Giannis, and Jrue Holiday and still acquire Dame. I don't think it would have worked cap wise, and I don't think that like it would have worked just in general.
But
So,
I mean, yeah, it wouldn't work. But like, I don't even think it matters anymore. You know, you got
Right.
Damian Lillard. It's like, okay,
yeah, true.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that Jrue is. I don't think that this is his final destination that he's going to be traded to. There's plenty of teams that could be out there trying to trade for him. We don't necessarily have to get into that quite yet, but I do want to talk about the Blazers a little bit because if they do not trade Jrue and they keep DeAndre Ayton, could this be a team that potentially, is fighting for a play-in? I mean,
No.
they still. You don't think so?
No, if it didn't work, if Dame and Nurkic and all of them couldn't, if CJ and Dame and them weren't working, why does Jrue and Ayton, players who have never played with each other, why would that all of a sudden work against a loaded Western Conference? Why would that be good enough to beat the Lakers, the Denver Nuggets, who else? The Golden State Warriors, the Suns.
Or are you talking about teams that are
gosh.
going to be like, the top 5 or 6
I'm
seeds?
talking about teams that are going to smash them into the ground. Those are guaranteed losses.
Uh-huh.
And who would they be fighting against? The Dallas Mavericks? Is that a comparable team? Think
No,
Jrue Holiday and DeAndre
well, I
Ayton
guess,
can
yeah,
take
if
down
we're
Luka
talking,
Doncic?
yeah, I guess, like, okay, so basically for me, what it comes down to is that I don't think they're going to be a bad team. I think they're going to be competitive. But when you look at the other teams that are going to be in a similar position or looking to take that next step, we're talking about the Thunder, the Rockets, possibly the Jazz. Those teams are still going to be pretty even with the Blazers. I think the Blazers are realistically, I think you could be fighting for a play-in. I don't think playoff is realistic for them, but I think you could be having an outside chance, competitive chance at like a 10 or probably just a 10 seed, probably just the last play-in spot. Because I just realistically, I don't see them being better than the teams I just mentioned. Possibly the Jazz. I think they could be better than the Spurs, but we'll see about the Spurs. But that's really it. I mean,
But
I think
who? Yeah.
every other team is better than them. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty unlikely.
They're not even a play-in team. Like, I don't see. Okay, so you said the Spurs. Sure, they're better than the Spurs, but who
Better
is
than
it?
the Spurs and
You
the
know?
Jazz, probably. Yeah,
Okay. Who else? You named two teams.
that's what I'm telling you. I think they have an
But that
outside
puts
chance to make the 10 seed, but it's very unlikely because they'd have to beat teams that have gotten better.
them at the 13th seed right there. If you put them in the 13th seed,
12th.
that's exactly where they're at. You have it so far. You just said Spurs and Jazz, then they're 13. Am I wrong?
No, that's right.
No,
That's 13.
You're right. I don't
But
know.
yeah, so there's not many, and so then I guess we're just
So
assuming
yeah,
that
no.
they're
So
not done dealing
probably
these
not.
players.
Well, yeah, definitely not. I mean, Jrue Holiday will get dealt to a third team. I think Ayton stays, but I just don't know how much impact he's really going to have on them winning games at this point in his career. Like he's going to be a good player, but he's not going to be the guy that takes you from the 13th seed to the 10th seed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. They'd have to beat out either the Mavericks, OKC,
And the Rockets. They'd have to beat
and the
all
Rockets,
three.
and the Pelicans, or the Timberwolves.
Right. Pelicans too. Don't think they're going to be better than the Timberwolves. Pelicans healthy, I don't think they'll be better than either. I don't think they'll be better than the Rockets, although they have a chance to be. But I'd be very surprised if they were. And I don't think they're going to be better than the Thunder either.
Yeah, so that leaves them not even in the play-in.
Yeah. But I think I think you could make a case that maybe that they have an outside shot. It would take injuries and it would take a favorable start to the season for them. But I'd probably give it like a 15% chance, 20% chance.
Okay.
All right. So now we can. So we talked about the Suns for a little bit. Talked about the Blazers. Let's talk about the Bucks. Okay. So
Did we talk about the Suns?
I mean, yeah.
I feel like I guess we did, but like I don't know.
We more so
We didn't-
talked about like Nurkic's fit, but
Yeah.
not really. I mean, I think we all kind of have the same opinion about where the Suns realistically should be before and after this move. You know,
Yeah. So the Bucks adding Damian Lillard, you know, is I mean they lost to the Heat the first round of the playoffs last year. Um, is Damian Lillard the piece that they are missing to kind of make it another title run?
They weren't even missing a piece. You just took the piece and you've just like you took the puzzle and you basically like laminated it. That's what you did. Like the puzzle's already there. Sure, it could have been, but now you just laminated it over the puzzle. Like they could have won another championship. Giannis doesn't get hurt. What happens in the first round? You saw how the Heat were able to get through. If it's not the Heat, then whoever wins that series, I would honestly put the Bucks over any of those teams based on how they played in the playoffs. And then it's the Bucks and the Nuggets, and then who knows who wins that. But no. I wouldn't say it's a missing piece. It's just a brilliant upgrade that now you've extended Damian Lillard's career because now he's actually playing with a 28-year-old Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's playing with Middleton. He doesn't have to do it all himself, and he can actually be a scoring point guard who can, widen the floor much more than Jrue could. So, like, it's just insane. You're gonna see if you thought Giannis was dominating the paint now, just you wait. Just you wait. It's gonna be defensively. Giannis is gonna be crazy, and offensively, like you can't even sag behind. You can't even sag the paint anymore. You can't. Now, I would say like on paper it's amazing, but we also what happened when you paired up James Harden and Joel Embiid, because that's what I envisioned too. Like you finally have someone who can space the floor. Heck, you had like all these players who could space the floor. You had Seth Curry at one point in that, and yet the Philadelphia 76ers couldn't figure it out. I don't know. Maybe that's Doc's fault, but with the new coach in Milwaukee, who's a known Monty, right? It's Monty, right?
I think it's
Believe
Adrian
so.
Griffin.
It's Adrian
yeah.
Griffin is who they went with?
Yeah, Monty is with the Suns. Or no, where'd he go? Where did Monty?
Monty went to Detroit.
Detroit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with a new coach, that's the only thing that might worry me. But I mean, it's not too hard to screw that up.
Yep, Adrian Griffin.
Yeah, I would pretty much agree with that. Yeah, like Gage said, I don't really think it was a missing piece per se. I think if anything, it was just an upgrade offensively and defensively. You kind of just take that trade off, and it kind of just mixes things up as far as like teams being able to prep for your team. Adds that sense of not knowing how they're going to play, not knowing how to defend them in the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, like Gage said too, I think they could have not made the trade and they still would have had a decent chance to win the championship again. But they made a big move, and I think it's an upgrade.
All right. So with Jrue Holiday getting traded, and we just talked about that we think that he's going somewhere else. Who is this team that is going to be trading for Jrue Holiday? Let's make a prediction right now.
It's a tough question because I feel like there's teams that should and want to acquire him, but you have to make it make sense from the Blazers' point of view. and I think
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna want picks out of it. And the teams that I envision wanting Jrue aren't gonna have one either picks at all or two the most attractive picks because they're probably gonna be later. There's one team that I feel like would have a balance between the two, and that's the Dallas Mavericks. I just don't know if getting another lead ball handler makes a lot of sense for them, especially because you're giving up picks for him. I think the Heat would also be an interesting move because they could use another ball handler with Kyle Lowry getting up there in age, and they're also going to have picks to deal out, and they kind of have to pivot now because I think they were kind of banking on um, getting Lillard, and so I think that would make sense. I think the Clippers and Lakers would make a lot of sense. I just don't think that they have the assets to get it done unless there's a third team involved, and I just don't see it really being worth the squeeze at that point. But man, if I'm making an official prediction, I suppose I'd go with the Heat just because I think that adds element of what would you say? It gives the Heat a little bit of at the edge as far as um, Jrue Holiday being able to beat his former team in the playoffs, possibly kind of setting that up. Um, so I think it makes a little bit of sense for them, and they would have all the picks because I don't believe they traded any of their picks yet, so they would have multiple picks to trade off. I just don't think they would want to dig into their young players, but if they had to dish out Jovic, um, or who's another young player they could dish out. I mean, really, I don't think it would take a whole lot of player personnel. I think the Blazers are pretty happy with their talent on their roster. I think they just want picks at this point, so I think it would make sense there.
I think he's going to the Pelicans.
Pelicans.
Yeah, I think it makes the most sense. They have the assets. They need a guard. They have Zion. They need to redeem that. They have a lot of injuries. Zion pans out. None of them really need the ball to be successful. I was thinking in my head, I was thinking, oh man, maybe the Timberwolves. But then I'm like, you know, we got to see. I don't know if it's the best fit because they don't really need any ball dominant guards anymore because that's the whole reason they traded away D'Angelo Russell. Well, I guess D'Angelo Russell isn't too ball dominant, but that's another story. I feel like you want the ball in Anthony Edwards' hands, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then with the Clippers, they don't have anything to offer. They still have to pay for Kawhi. And then the Lakers, I don't think the Lakers would even want to deal with that. The Lakers have just talked themselves out of dealing for. They probably talked themselves out of trying to get Dame, and then they talked themselves out of trying to get any other big superstar ever since the Russell Westbrook catastrophe. And so now they're going to see how this depth goes because that's exactly how their championship went 2020, and in 2021 they had a good roster too. So it's do we really need a big three? So I'm like, it makes the most sense for the Pelicans. They have the assets. Jrue has history there. It just makes a lot of sense. I'm picking Pelicans.
Yeah, and I just looked up the New Orleans picks. If they wanted to trade 2 first-round picks, they could because they have 3 in this upcoming draft. So
Yeah.
they have, including swap rights with Milwaukee. They have their own, and then they also have the Lakers for 2024, and they could even dish out maybe a few others. They don't have any seconds. Don't know where all those went, but they have plenty of firsts that they can deal out. And the team that is probably the most obvious that should try is the Clippers, but they don't have the assets. They don't have the picks unless if the Trailblazers won a 2027 and a 2029 first round picks. But I don't think that that's what they'd be getting right now.
I don't even know if those are eligible anymore. Still, those still might not be eligible.
Yeah, it's true.
Is it you get?
It's
they don't
probably
have 26 and they don't have 26 or they don't have 28, so they can't give 27.
Yeah,
unless it's a swap.
Yeah,
Gotcha. It'd have to be a swap.
Yeah.
So it would have to be straight up players for that, and I don't think that like, is it worth it to give up Terrence Mann and a few other of your younger guys that you have to get Jrue Holiday? I mean, maybe, but that's more of a
Maybe.
hindsight question. It's like, oh yeah, that was a good idea, or you know what, like that bit us in the butt.
I
So
feel like I feel like they could make that trade. Like if they are willing, I think the Trailblazers just say no. Like I think you don't want Terrence Mann. Like it's nice, but you'd rather get the first round picks. Like
Yeah.
right.
I agree with that.
I mean, the Clippers won't give the best trade package because I feel like, I mean, the Pelicans could give you, realistically, if you're the Blazers, that's the team that you're probably calling like, hey, are you interested?
I mean,
Like,
like the Clippers are like that uncle, that uncle who has this car. Like this is like that uncle who bought that car that doesn't work, but it's a project car, and they bought that car when Kawhi Leonard was traded. When they signed Kawhi Leonard, because they're like, all we need is a point guard. When are they going to get that point guard? It's been years, and it's the project car, and the Clippers are the uncle, and like.
yeah, this uncle works that 9 to 5 job, makes a lot of money, but has to go and spend money because he's like, you know what? Like we need a new engine, but like let me get some new tires. Let's get a good paint job on this.
Yeah.
But like the one thing that it needs to go and be that functioning car, they just can't find. And they get Russell Westbrook, and the car started, but it didn't move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
going
do
to be the
think,
moral of the story.
yeah, that's an interesting analogy. I think one team that would be interesting to watch out for would be the Chicago Bulls. I think they'd be getting kind of a Alonzo Ball replacement. The only thing with that I think would stop the trade from happening is that I think after trading their picks for Vucevic earlier, and that eligibility of their getting their own picks back is back this year or next year. Um, I don't know if they'd be willing to make another trade for an aging veteran, although I think it'd be a good fit. I don't know if they'd be down to do it because they just got over that trade, and I don't know if they'd want to make another big trade for an aging veteran where who kind of knows where the Bulls are at, as far as like, are they really in contention anymore? Are they more of a play-in team versus are they more of a 4 or 5 seed? So
I mean, you got to think it has to be tempting, though. Like, it's tempting
yeah,
because, like, you got to understand when Lonzo was there, the Bulls were the number one in the East. And why? It's because he was able to play defense and he was a floor general. He could distribute between everyone. Name one person who
Mhm.
can do all that and play defense. It's like, is Zach LaVine going to distribute? No. Is Vucevic going to distribute? No. DeRozan? No. So it had to been Lonzo. But if Jrue can fill out in that hole, you can get a number one seed. But that's like saying, like, we were good 20 games into the season. We were number one with this formula. But would we have been number one for the rest of that season had
Yeah.
Lonzo Ball not get injured?
True.
That's the risk.
Yeah.
And they always try to replace it. Like, said, all right, we got Ayo. Let's make him defensively. Okay, that kind of didn't work. All right, now we have Caruso. We're trying to make Caruso act like Lonzo, but he doesn't have the passing.
Yeah.
The ability to distribute.
Doesn't
so
have the
he's a one or
talent.
the other. Mm-mm. And the Bulls are thinking about it because they do want a defensive guard. They really do. Like, you can see it with all the little things. It's like I'm full of these analogies today, but it's like you're like their new point guard looks like their ex point guard. It's just like like they're still heartbroken a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you remind me of someone, and then but
Right.
then you can't tell them. It's
You can't tell them. I think right now it's who's their up and coming, their point guard who fell off, and then he's coming back.
I mean, I think still Kobe White has somewhere in the league to be at, but I just don't think it's on the Bulls. And I do think Ayo could be good, but I don't think it's as a lead ball handler. But otherwise, I
But
don't know
there
what
was
other guard there.
there's a guard that is gonna get plenty of playing time. That's why I'm telling you, like, for fantasy reasons, you don't want to hear from me because I'm gonna give all the secrets away. But like, who's that point guard who was
For the
bad and
Bulls?
for the Bulls. He's coming. He's up and coming back. He was almost out the league, and now he's
Did
kind of like.
has he been on the team for a while, or is this his first year
I think
with the team?
I think he's his like first year. I don't remember.
Like,
Maybe
is he young? So he's older?
yeah, I thought it was
He
I don't
signed
know.
in free agency? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, maybe it was Kobe. Maybe it was Kobe White. I didn't think it was Kobe White, but I thought they were done with Kobe White.
It says their only point guard they signed is Javon Carter. I don't think that's who you're thinking of.
No, that might be Kobe White.
Yeah. I think Kobe White will be good. He'll be fine. I don't know if he'll be like that good, but he'll be fine,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, they did sign him for $11 million, so you got to do something for us.
Yeah, but how much is 11 million really in today's world in the NBA?
That is true, especially with the cap increase that they just did.
Yeah, and it's gonna go
Good.
up
That
even
means
more.
he's a
Yep.
backup guard.
Yeah.
All right. So, is there anything else you guys want to talk about with this trade?
Wait, when we talk about this trade, like, forgive me if I just don't know, but like, why are people including Kamara as part of this, like, like headline of this trade? Like, is this guy a rookie? Like, I've never heard of this guy's name in my life.
Let me look him up. All right, here.
'Cause
Let me.
he's got to be either a rookie or just like a bench warmer.
I don't know who come. I don't know.
He is a rookie, but he was the 52nd pick. So I don't even think he'll make the roster. I mean, and if he does, it'll be like a G League thing. And I can just tell you on Google right now, like, he went to Dayton for a couple years after Georgia. He transferred. He's a super late pick. He'll probably make the G League roster. But I don't know.
He's got a bunch of.
They really just got, like, if you can go back to the package, if you can go back to the trade on Bleacher Report, basically the Blazers side of it is pending Jrue Holiday's trade, but it basically only got a one unprotected first and 2 swaps, which, I mean, do you guys think those swaps will be really worth anything? I mean, ideally they might be, but you just never know.
But I mean, in 2030, maybe if Giannis isn't there.
It's a possibility. I guess it is 7 years ago.
What are you saying? How did the Blazers do with this trade?
I'm just trying to look at it from, like, as far as Damian Lillard, like, this has to be probably the weakest trade as far as draft picks go for, like, a star player in the last 5 years. Because if you look at, like,
I don't know.
Well, let's go through it. What are some of the biggest trades? Like, okay, so James Harden, that netted 3 unprotected first, 3 pick swaps. Obviously, you didn't get a player out of it, but you still got all those picks. What's a player before that? The Anthony Davis trade, that was tons of picks. And so I'm just trying to look at it from the perspective of, it's a rebuilding team that needs as many chances at a lottery pick as they can get. And I just didn't feel like they did very good in that regard here.
They got Jrue Holiday and DeAndre Ayton. They can turn those into picks if they wanted to.
Holiday,
yeah, and
yes, and that's why I gave that caveat that we have to see what that looks like first. But Ayton, I think they're keeping, and I don't think that you'd be able to net multiple firsts for Ayton at this point, unless he has a resurgent year.
I think you could maybe get at least a first out of Ayton, and then maybe another piece or two of a young player that you want. Who might that be? I don't know. But you could probably get a first and two young players.
You could probably get a late first, a second, and one decent young player, I think.
Yeah. And I think if you're Portland, you take that because you know that you're going to get a decent package for Jrue.
Yeah. It just depends, like we said, where the picks are coming from,
Right.
ultimately. Because if they ultimately, like, if they end up just being, like, let's say Jrue Holiday goes to. See, and that's what I'm saying. If you can get Jrue Holiday to go to the Mavericks, Bulls, possibly Pelicans, they'd probably want protections on those picks, though. But if you can get him to get traded there, opposed to a contender, your picks the value of those picks are way higher than a contender would be. Because ultimately, if he goes to, like, and I even think the Clippers wouldn't be bad, but like I said too, if it's a team that has injury concerns, I think they'd want protections. But if it was a team, let's just say like the Clippers, and they end up being pretty good, maybe like a first or second round exit, that pick is like somewhere around 24 or 23 or 22 or something like that. The chances of that pick being an actual starter, let alone like a long term piece on your team, is just not very likely. And so once those picks are deplenished, then you have to look at, okay, what picks did we get for Dame? And you're getting picks from the Bucks that are also several years out, that by that time you're probably already either going to be a contender or you're going to be stuck in mediocrity. So I just think they should have prioritized picks a little bit more. But I do like how they got a promising young player in Ayton, and then Jrue Holiday will get more return. Because if you, like I said, if you look at other trades of big players in the past 5 years, like, they're all going for a ton of picks, and that's for a reason, because like these young teams, they want stabs at actual long term talent, not possible shots in the dark in the 20s, And DeAndre Ayton, I mean, what does that really do for you this year, especially that you don't have your own pick, like we talked about originally or in the beginning of the podcast, like, we don't have them making the play-in as of right now, so like, what does that really do for you?
Yeah.
And then you have that huge contract on top of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, at least you got Aiden, and I think we're forgetting that they have Scoot there too. So, like, maybe you already got another center. You got your center for the future right there. Aiden's locked up. So if it works out, and then it seems like you can build something around Scoot and Aiden, then maybe you can draft that. So I don't know. I don't think it's too important to get another pick because you haven't really even seen Scoot play, and you haven't even seen Ayton, be the focal point of an offense before. So I think there's a lot to just look at.
Yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to bring up about the trade?
I think the Bucks are the favorites now.
You think so? Let's talk about it.
Easily. I don't know how you're gonna stop that because we talk about the combo, but it's not really a combo because you still have Middleton, you still have Brook Lopez, you still have the sixth man of the year, and then you also have some shooters in Pat Connaughton and Mike and Beasley. Even though they can be streaky at times, it's just a formula for success. You got the depth, and you have, like, we can't even laugh at them for saying, "Oh, who's gonna play defense?" You have the defensive player. You have 3 players who could be defensive players of the years, and now I'm really like, and I'm saying, when I say like the 3 best defensive players on the team, like, it'd be Giannis, Brook Lopez, and then maybe Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis could play some good defense, but
Yeah,
it's just kind of a wrap unless injuries.
yeah.
Injuries.
That'd be the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is, I think ultimately, it depends on Chris Middleton and his health, because if he's healthy, he can finally, I think in the first time in his career, actually be the real third option that he probably should be on a championship team. I think, scoring wise, he's always had to be the number two. And I just don't think that that's the optimal way to try to use him. I think if he can be the third option and get that like third defensive man help, then I think that's huge for him because I think, if you try to put the third best defender one on one on Chris Middleton, he's going to work all game. I don't think that's gonna really. I think that's gonna really hurt whatever team is trying to guard him and the other two guys. But ultimately, you're just gonna have to accept that because you'd rather have Chris Middleton going one on one and trying to do his thing versus having to deal with Giannis and Damian Lillard. So I think that's pretty. I think that's. I mean, but realistically, right?
That
So
sounds ridiculous just hearing it.
why does it sound ridiculous?
Like you're like, all right, you got to deal with Chris Middleton, and all of a sudden you
But
have to
Chris
deal with
Middleton
Giannis
is a
and
good
Damian
player.
Lillard. I'm like, jeez, no, like how good the team is. Like, yeah,
Right,
Chris-
exactly. Yeah, exactly. It does. Yeah, it does sound crazy ridiculous, right? Like,
sounds like a like
you
a
know?
like a like a team you'd make an NBA My Team or something. Like, oh
Right,
yeah,
yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like like a my league team or something. But not to mention like if you want to play Chris Middleton one on one and he's having an off game and you want to try to play your best two-man game with Dame and Giannis defensively, then Brook Lopez has what's ever left. And Brook Lopez isn't a slouch either. And he's a real 38, 39% three-point shooter.
all
Um,
time
you
net
know.
scoring leader.
Exactly. And he was, I believe, top three defensive player of the year last year too. So
Yep.
not even offensively, but defensively, this team should be pretty scary. Obviously, losing Jrue does hurt. Another thing that I kind of forgot to mention that I was talking to somebody else about with earlier before is that I think the trade with Marcus Smart and the Grizzlies with the Celtics losing Marcus Smart is going to hurt even more now because I think with Marcus Smart, you can kind of, fend off a little bit of that pressure from Damian if it comes to that in the playoffs. So without him, I mean, especially if Porzingis isn't healthy for that roster, you're just hurting yourself even more.
Yeah. And, I feel like, with the Celtics trading for Porzingis, if Porzingis is healthy and can play well, you could say that the Celtics could definitely be up there. I don't think you can count out the Heat quite yet, but I think with this trade, the Bucks are probably the favorites to win the NBA Finals, especially probably to come out of the East. I don't know if you can put the Celtics ahead.
Oh yeah, they got to
and
be the favorite out of the East for sure.
Yeah, especially because we know James Harden's probably going to get traded. He doesn't want to play in Philly, so we could just start writing off all of these other teams. And then there's some teams that just aren't ready, like the Cavs, unfortunately, the New York Knicks. So yeah,
I think the Cavs and the Bucks will be an interesting game. I'm not going to say that they're not ready. I think the Cavs have the best defense. I think the Cavs have the best defense in the East, like overall. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Yeah, but I think this Bucks team can be like defeated. So the thing that's always killed the Bucks in the past is that if you have a good perimeter 3-point, like a good 3-point shooting team that can actually really obliterate them, just threes, and doesn't actually need to operate in the paint, then maybe you got a shot. Because all of their players who are defensive player of the year, like caliber, all operated in the paint. You don't actually want to see Giannis guard someone on the perimeter. You want to see Giannis guard someone who likes to drive because he can shut down the paint. He's great to put on against. He can shut down like players like LeBron and those sorts of guys who like to get their touches in the paint. Anthony Davis, but the Bucks for the last 5 years have been that team that you can just stop by just shooting over them. It's just yeah. It can come down to Middleton. I mean, he was a good defender a few years ago. Like Chris Middleton was a good defender 2 years ago, but coming off an injury, we'll see how Middleton can hold it down.
Yeah, I think he only played like 33 games last year. And
Yeah.
I think that was also with playing only like 2 stints last year, and coming
Mhm.
back from injury, and then like not necessarily feeling the best. A lot of rest games. So
Yeah, it's just weird to me, like they are. I will say, I will go on record that I think the Bucks have the best defense, but they don't have the best perimeter defense. That's kind of weird to say, but that's just how I'm viewing it.
yeah, which with how today's day and age is like, I mean that's nice to have, but you know, sometimes it's like if you can guard the three, then it makes everything a lot easier,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're winning.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you guys need to add? No.
No.
All right.
Nah,
Well. All right.
No.
So
probably
it
not.
was a good conversation. We'll see what this trade will affect. Maybe James Harden gets traded in a few days too, because some of those teams that were wanting Dame might have just been like, okay, now we got to go try to get James. We'll see how the Jrue Holiday and DeAndre Ayton kind of play out, and yeah, season's less than a month away, so we're getting close to it. So once again, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Momentum MVP. Follow our Facebook page at MVP Momentum Podcast, and check us out on YouTube at MVP Momentum Podcast. I've been Sam Holcroft.
Geigh Zollicoffer.
Evan Payton Thompson.
Thanks for listening.